Welcome to your next Chills Before Sleep. My name is Lisa. I'm a 23-year-old college student from the South of America. In the next story, I'm going to tell you about a night 3 years ago. A night with two of my best friends that ended up in a true horror scene. Make sure you stick around to the end and listen carefully. You might learn something from this experience. I was 20 at the time and had just gotten admitted into college. I was successful making good friends within the first few days. I met two other girls. Their names were Jane and Anna. We were all close in age, shared a lot of similar interests, and were very bright students. Anna was the strangest one of the three of us. She was always telling stories of ghosts and the paranormal. I never believed in her stories and usually just kind of laughed it off. It was just a regular, boring day at college. My friends and I attended our physics lecture, and the class was dismissed with 3 assignments for homework, adding more boredom to the already very boring day. We went to the cafeteria and sat around a table to start our usual conversation. "What a boring day," said Jane. "Couldn't agree more," said Anna. "If there was just something that could make it exciting, like the principal's office catching on fire," she continued. "Or the chemistry department collapsing," added Jane. We all sat there and had a good laugh. Then I received a phone call from my father. I answered. "Hey, Dad." "Hey, sweetie. I just wanted to let you know your mother and I are going out of town tonight. I'll put the house key in the plant pot next to the front door." "I'll place all your favorite snacks in your room," said Mom from the background. "Goodbye, sweetie. Take care of yourself," they both continued. "Goodbye. Have fun and be safe. I love you," I replied as I hung up the phone. "You guys won't believe it, but the day just got better," I said excitedly. "How exactly? What could make this boring day better?" my friends asked. "My parents are out of town for tonight, so are you guys down for a sleepover?" "Oh my God, yes! We would love that!" Both readily agreed. We attended the rest of our classes and happily left for home on what seemed to be the most boring day that turned exciting. It was a fine, cloudy evening and a pleasant walk home. Once we got to my house, we made ourselves comfortable and were prepared to have an amazing time. I grabbed all the snacks from my room, and all of us went straight into the living room, where we put on a movie. The movie eventually ended, and then we started playing a game of Truth or Dare, at the request of Jane. After a half an hour of secrets being revealed, confessions being made to our crushes, and us girls attempting stupid dares, I got dared to attempt the Bloody Mary challenge. "What's that?" I questioned Anna. "I did some research on Mary. Legend has it is that the spirit of the bloodthirsty Queen Mary the First of England still roams freely in this world. You can summon her by chanting Bloody Mary at a mirror in a dimly lit room 3 times. After the 3 chants, the spirit will then appear in the mirror to claw your eyes out. Death will follow, and some say she will drive you insane or pull you into the mirror, never to be seen again. It's still a mystery who Bloody Mary really is," she replied. Me, being the fearless, brave girl, laughed it off saying, "Oh, that's ridiculous. It's just a children's story. Grow up, Anna. You really believe in that myth?" "If you're so firm on believing it's a children's story, why don't you do it?" said Jane, scornfully, totally believing what Anna said. "Fine, I'll do it," I replied. "I'm gonna satisfy your cravings for excitement, don't you worry." "Lisa, think again before you attempt to do this so willingly. This ritual is flirting with danger," said Anna, grabbing me from the shoulder. "Lisa, I believe it's real. So do you really want to do it? I was just testing your courage," she continued with a quavering voice. "Yeah, whatever," I replied while taking her hand off my shoulder. I went to the kitchen and grabbed a candle and lit it. I proceeded to lock myself in the bathroom with the lights turned off and began to chant at the mirror. "Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary! Scaling up my voice after every chant. For a moment, even I was afraid that something might happen because the authenticity in Anna's voice. But nope, there was nothing. I jokingly let out a dramatic scream just to spook my friends waiting outside. When I opened the bathroom door, my friends were staring at me with nervous faces, as if I were a ghost. I laughed hysterically at them and said, "Got you good, didn't I?" They both then said, "Let us give it a try. You must have missed something." "Fine, go on," I replied. Jane pulled the candle out of my hands and rushed into the bathroom and repeated the ritual to try and summon Bloody Mary. We waited outside. I wasn't nearly as scared and excited as my friends were, as I thought to myself how stupid my friends were to believe such a ridiculous story. I told Anna about how she actually made me kind of scared for a moment there, as I felt some truthfulness in her words earlier. We heard Jane do the ritual, and then the bathroom door opened with Jane standing there, not amused even a bit. "You're right, Lisa. It doesn't work," she muttered. "What did I tell you guys?" I responded while giggling at their disappointment. The three of us sat down for another round of Truth or Dare, and suddenly, the lights in my house started flickering. We all sprang up, frightened. "It was probably just because of the heavy rain outside, guys," I said nervously, trying to calm everyone down. But the flickering got worse and worse, which was then accompanied by a ghostly screeching sound. All three of us were petrified. Anna's face turned white. She slowly lifted her trembling hand and pointed at what I thought was me, and in the dullest voice whispered underneath her breath, "Behind you." I suddenly felt a cold breath on my neck. It sent shivers down my spine. My heart skipped a beat as I turned to look behind me. There stood a woman with a deformed face. She had long, messy hair and nails, with blood-stained hands glaring at me. I froze in place due to the absolute horror of how she looked. "She's real!"
"It is called upon the ancient spirit."
The spirit of Mary roared in a demonic tone. I kept glued in place for a moment, but then the adrenaline kicked in, and I let out the loudest scream of my life and began running, and so did Jane. Before I could reach the door, all of the house started immensely shaking. I fell to the ground just to turn around and see the horror of that bloody face. Her face started rotating back to look towards me. I felt my body numb from the fear. I saw our furniture and utensils flying all over the house. Bloody knives were flying all over the living room. I heard Jane screaming from the other side of the house. We saw Anna getting grabbed by the legs as she was running towards me. And in the heat of the moment, we solely thought about ourselves, with only one thing in mind. How was I going to escape this nightmare? With no care in the world for one another, I rushed to the front door, grabbed the handle, and managed to get out. As I peered into the house, I happened to catch a glimpse of Jane as she cleared the threshold of the back door and lunged herself into the yard. Still in shock and terror-stricken, I yelled to Jane, "Where's Anna?" Jane's eyes met with mine, saturated with fear and confusion, as we heard a terrifying scream. We redirected our attention from one another to the living room, which was Anna's last known location, and saw the most horrendous sight. It was Anna getting devoured by Bloody Mary. I let out a scream. Jane was running towards me outside. The both of us cried, watching our best friend getting killed right in front of our eyes. Our neighbors rushed to our aid after hearing all the screaming and shouting. Mary disappeared, and we were taken into one of the neighboring houses. They tried to get us to speak, but we were in no state of doing so. My neighbor, who was an elderly woman, allowed us to stay with her for the night, but we couldn't sleep, due to the constant fear of Mary coming after one of us. We were the ones who summoned her after all. God knows how that night passed. When my parents arrived the next morning, I uncontrollably took hold of my mother, crying and unable to let go. Our house was sealed after the police investigated the incident. They recovered what was left of Anna's body. Jane and I were questioned regarding the events that took place that night. We tried to tell everything that happened, but no one believed the urban legend. We stayed in a hotel room for a few nights, and I begged my parents that we should move out of town, far away from here. My parents got a house shifting service to get all of our stuff packed up and moved. After attending Anna's funeral, we left for our new home. I have started attending college here, but I have not been able to focus on my studies that well. The once bright student was now gone. Weird how one incident can change your entire life. I keep in touch with Jane regarding my studies, but the topic of that night, or Anna, never gets brought up. I still to this day have not recovered from the incident, and I try to avoid every mirror I come across. That night has made me develop a phobia of mirrors and candles, still afraid that the scary woman might come after me eventually. No idea what she was seeking vengeance for. I went from a strong and brave girl to the weakest and most introvert in just one night. I keep thinking to myself, am I the one to blame for Anna's death? The thought that maybe I could have grabbed her when I escaped still lingers. I never thought that Anna's story of the Bloody Mary woman would end up like this. I wonder if there are more people where this scary ritual went wrong. For now, I know I will never try this again. I have learned to take every story seriously and don't try any rituals. You never know which ones will come true and which ones won't.
Thank you for watching this video. Have you experienced a similar situation or another scary experience? Don't hesitate to submit your story by email or in the comments section down below. Ready for your next Chills Before Sleep? Make sure you hit the like button and subscribe for us to provide you with more scary stories. Let us know what you think, and don't forget to enable all notifications. Be the first one to get the chills.